She walked into Parliament covered head to toe in a burqa. No face. No identification. No one stopped her. Not once. And what happened next inside those corridors is now being called a political security failure, or a deliberate stunt that exposed something much bigger. Because Pauline Hanson didn't just walk through security, she walked straight into a national firestorm.
Stairs, I was met by 2 security guards, and following behind me was Brian Burston, who followed me down the corridor and down the stairs. The 2 security guards at no point asked who I was, asked to see my face. I then walked up the corridor towards the chamber door. Senator Wilson, the Green senator, stopped and he actually put out his hand and I shook his hand. He had no idea it was me under that burqa. And I've got to say, in the full year I've been in that parliament, he has not shaken my hand since. It was a symbol to him, and he said words to the effect, you know, good on you. And then he actually kept going. Later I was to learn from him, he thought I was a protester in the parliament and I was being escorted by the guards. If that be the case, you know, I really pity his views on it, that someone, you know, wearing a full burqa to go up and shake their hand. I then proceeded to the chamber door and I went through the chamber. The attendant, who's not a security guard, but the attendant, he rose from his chair, stood at me and he was gasping, and it's like and he didn't know what to do. And I didn't speak. I never spoke a word. Anyway, Senator Burston was saying, "It is Senator Hanson." He said it twice. Then he actually stood to the side and let me pass, and I went and sat in my chair. But at no time did anyone ever check my identity, ask me if it was me. They didn't have voice recognition and definitely not face recognition.
I'll just make the point though, Senator Hanson, it's Peter Credlin here. I'll make the point though,
Yes.
that you had Senator Burston with you, so he in effect would have vouched for you all the way through those various security channels. Now, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I have no truck with the burqa. I would ban it in this country. I would not have any Australian wear it in anywhere in public at all. I find it oppressive. I find it it's subjugation.
It is.
And I completely agree with one of those comments that Alan read out. If you are a feminist, and I say this particularly to the women on the left, if you are a feminist, you stand against the burqa for all women and particularly in this country. But I see this more as an issue about Islam and the burqa and women than I do it as a security issue, by the very nature that to be inside that perimeter of the parliament, you have a pass and you had Senator Burston with you. Is that a fair comment? Is that the point you were trying to make?
What do you think about this debate? Drop your opinion in the comments and let's see where people really stand on this issue.
No, because when I actually went into the chamber, when I first went into Parliament, and one of the members there wears a hat, so I actually asked Senator Parry, who's the President, what is the dress code for the Parliament? He said there is none. There's no dress code.
It was removed in relation to the Senate some time ago, yes.
Yeah, so anyway, what I was moving my private member's bill about banning the burqa nationally, and I was making a statement in that chamber because we actually need to show our faces for facial recognition when it comes to our vote. So that was also very important, and I think if we're going to deal with this issue, deal with it now before we ever have a Muslim elected to Parliament who wears the full burqa. How are we going to deal with that? And I think it's very important. We need to discuss this. But my whole issue was about, I do believe the burqa should be banned. I think it's confronting. You know, I'll tell you something honestly. Since that last Thursday, now I've travelled from Canberra to Tasmania to Sydney to Brisbane. Now I've been out and about. I've been to the shopping centres in Sydney today. Not one person has criticised me. Actually, I've been swamped with people coming up congratulating me. A woman from Egypt, she said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. We actually have left Egypt, the oppression there, and we are here." She was nearly crying. She said, I'm nearly crying. And I have had that from a lot of migrants that have come here, left these countries where they have been oppressed by Islamic political ideology. They don't want the burqa here, and yet we are turning a blind eye to it. I cannot understand why these politicians won't open up for debate.
The other thing, Pauline, is this question of theology. I mean, Brandis is supposed to be an intelligent man who completely ignores the fact that under Islamic theology there's no requirement to wear a burqa. Earlier tonight on Andrew Bolt's program, Hassit Salih.
And what you just watched wasn't just a parliamentary exchange. It was a carefully staged political moment that turned into a national flashpoint the second it hit the airwaves. What Pauline Hanson is describing here is being framed as a security exposure. But the real story she's pushing is much bigger. She's trying to prove that the system inside Parliament is not as tightly controlled as people believe. According to her version, she walked through multiple security layers in a full burqa without being properly identified. And that alone becomes the foundation of her entire argument. But notice what's actually happening in the narrative. This isn't just about security checks, it's about symbolism. Hanson is turning a procedural gap into a political weapon, arguing that if identity can be concealed even briefly inside Parliament, then the entire debate around facial coverings becomes a national security and cultural issue rather than just a personal or religious one. Then comes the political escalation. She doesn't stop at "this happened to me." She immediately expands it into a broader claim about lawmaking, voting systems, and future governance, even raising the idea of how Parliament would handle a future MP wearing full face covering. That shift is important because it transforms a single incident into a warning about the future of Australian politics. Alan Jones then amplifies that framing. Instead of treating it as a neutral procedural discussion, the conversation moves into values, culture, and ideology, with both sides reinforcing the idea that this is not just about clothing, but about identity, control, and national direction. And that's where the real tension sits. Supporters see this as a fearless exposure of political correctness and institutional blind spots. Critics see it as deliberate provocation that turns a security anecdote into a broader cultural confrontation. But either way, the outcome is the same. The moment becomes bigger than the chamber it happened in. Because once this clip leaves Parliament and enters media commentary, it stops being about what was asked in the room and becomes about what people believe it means for the country. And that's exactly why this exchange didn't fade quietly. It was designed, or at least shaped, to be interpreted, debated, and argued long after the microphones turned off.